So far, you've seen a few examples of abuse and how safeguarding can protect people. But what do we mean specifically when we talk about abuse? Abuse is an action or lack of action on the part of another person that causes harm. It can be intentional or unintentional. The 2014 CARE Act includes several types of abuse that are important to understand and learn how to identify. For example, physical abuse can be hitting, pushing or pulling of a vulnerable person. Listen to this example and imagine how it would feel to be physically abused.
My name is Charlotte. I've got cerebral palsy. About 4 years ago, when I moved out of my parents' house to live independently, I was in an accommodation in Tottenham, which was a supported living. Me and another service user didn't get along, and it got quite physical. The person in question, he got quite violent with me, and he tried to throw me down the stairs. Obviously, I screamed for my life. And that's when a member of staff managed to pull us apart, and then she called the police. Luckily, there was no broken bones or anything. If it wasn't for that particular member of staff, I don't think I would be here today.
Other types of abuse covered in the CARE Act include sexual abuse, psychological or emotional abuse, and financial or material abuse, like in the story of Mr. Smith and the post office from the first film. But all of those forms of abuse can happen in the most intimate of settings, the family home. Domestic violence is defined as coercive and controlling behaviour in intimate and familial relationships. And sadly, as a result, is often witnessed by children. So spotting signs of domestic violence and reporting them quickly can be really important for minimising danger to entire families.
My name is Eylem. I work for Haringey Council as a specialist domestic abuse practitioner, a member of public. So this woman, she was pregnant, actually heavily pregnant, in distress. She just fled to the street. She just escaped from home, bare feet and even no coat in the middle of winter actually, because she was quite scared and crying. They called the police then took her to the hospital because she was heavily pregnant and in distress, and then they made a referral to social services, and that's how it came to my attention. So I started providing support to this woman. Abuse and domestic violence is, I think, all of our responsibility. So it's not just the police or social services. In this case, of course, there's a child, so they had to make a referral to social services, and then the woman started to get all the support that she needed to be able to safeguard her child and herself.
Other types of abuse covered in the CARE Act include neglect, self-neglect, discriminatory abuse, which is using someone's race, ethnicity or sexual identity against them. Organisational abuse, for example, might be a care home or other institution intentionally causing harm or withholding care from a vulnerable person. Many of these forms of abuse can be easy to notice and identify, but one type is much more hidden and difficult to see than others, even though it's happening all around us in cities, towns and villages throughout the UK. Modern slavery, which includes human trafficking, sexual exploitation and forced labour, happens everywhere. That's why it's important for all of us to learn how to identify it.
My name's Tim. I work in a safe house with female victims of human trafficking. I think the modern slavery surrounds us. From when we get up in the morning to when we leave our house to when we arrive to our destination, we've almost certainly walked past properties where exploitation is occurring. A young lady who was born in Vietnam. Her parents died when she was young. About the age of 10, she was effectively sold and taken to a factory somewhere just inside Russia. She ended up staying there, she reckoned, for possibly something like 7 to 8 years. They threatened her and said that if she tried to run away, they would track her down, kill her. One day, a group of men came into the factory. They were masked men, and they chose about 15 or 20 people that they wanted to travel to the UK. Long journey, no windows in the truck. So at that point, she was given notice that she would need to go and work in the nail salon. And this is not a unique situation. There are people working in nail salons in all of our high streets, in all of our towns, and there are people accessing services in these nail salons and in these towns. Manicures, and they're having their nails filed, and any of the customers in the shop could look at her and think something was amiss, could have noticed that something wasn't quite right, but failed to do that. In this particular case, police came into the nail parlour on a search, on a routine visit, and it was at that point that she was detected as a victim of trafficking, that she was able to come out and then subsequently received the attention that she needed. She's very well now. She was with us for an extended period of time. We needed to provide a little bit more support due to her vulnerability, intense English language learning, lots of English lessons, and we were able to assist her to move forward.
These and other stories show what a huge impact abuse can have on people's lives, how abuse can make vulnerable people feel helpless, afraid and alone, and how you can play a crucial part in giving them a chance to get help. In our next film, you'll hear some more stories that show examples of people just like you that noticed abuse and took action, which made a big difference.